Although Victor and Valentino content is explained and featured, this video explores folklore with legends that can be considered very frightening for very young viewers. Due to the disturbing folklore mentioned, viewer discretion is advised.
Happy Halloween, Toonsters, and welcome to a special edition of the Cartoon Show. What's with the nightmare-inducing, scary stare of yours?
Come on, dude. I was just trying to have things get spooky around here for Halloween, man.
Of course. Anyway, this year, instead of trick-or-treating, we decided to talk about something that makes Halloween a lot more fun for everybody. Scary stuff. Especially monsters.
Yeah, indeed. And as a matter of fact, the Cartoon Network's severely underrated Victor and Valentino had tons of that. Especially for all 3 seasons. But the thing is, they actually used inspiration for some of the Mesoamerican and Latin American folklore. Isn't that crazy?
So this week, just in time for Halloween, we're talking about 5 creepiest Monte Macabre creatures from Victor and Valentino. This one's for you, Diego.
Starting off on a sort of an interesting note, number 5 goes to the mysterious Maddie from the episode Love at First Bite. Now, hold on. I know what you're thinking. Wait, is that like a female Valentino? Well, actually, yes.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that Cartoon Network had a gender-bent character.
But that's her own trick. In this very unusual scenario that happened, things were quite well for Valentino, and he ended up being boyfriend and girlfriend with Maddie. This was before Isabella came into the picture and everything, so for him, it was like sort of a first experience with this, right? That clearly is not the case, unfortunately.
Yeah, because just as Valentino thinks that love is a wonderful thing with Maddie, he finds out that she's actually a
Matlacihuatl.
And that's actually when the tables begin to turn, because she and her own family have an appetite for human flesh. Almost becomes their next main course.
Yeah, pretty much they were quite close to eating him up. But the Calaveras, especially with Victor coming in to his aid, they knew 2 weaknesses. Usually things have 1. This thing had 2. Water, which is pretty obvious, and
yeah,
harmonica music. What? Wait a second. Since when did monsters start to hate that tiny instrument?
Well, I tried playing a harmonica once, but I think I need a few lessons. I mean, this was back when I was like a kid.
I don't think harmonicas are really that scary.
It's actually the fact that is a figure of Mexican folklore, particularly in Oaxaca, who appears as a beautiful woman to lure men to their deaths. She is known as a vengeful spirit, often described as a ghost of a woman who was murdered along with the colonization or an incarnation of the Aztec goddess.
That thing was going to eat him alive? Thank God Victor stopped that from happening. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very close save.
Yeah, tell me about it.
At number 4, we have, oh geez, Lechuza from The Boy Who Cried Lechuza.
Okay, now, if you don't like something from this tale, then please turn your head. Basically, what happened was Victor faked an injury, and which is obviously makes sense for his personality, and he just wants to be the mischievous little rascal that he loves to be. At first, however.
Yeah, because when Victor gets carried away with the faking an injury to get out of work act, a mysterious owl-like creature called the Lechuza ends up taking him to her nest, which is, to put it lightly, a very messy place to live.
Yeah, for obvious reasons, we can't really explain why, so you're going to have to figure that out for yourself by watching it, because it's not safe for our channel. But the Lechuza actually is a real thing. Apparently, it actually is a shape-shifting witch that actually turns into a giant owl to seek revenge or punish any wrongdoers, and lures victims by mimicking sounds like a crying baby, and it even serves as a cautionary tale for children to get a grip and be respectful around others.
Wait a minute, so So this big owl-like shapeshifter is basically like a parent disciplining their child?
Yeah.
Let's just move on to number 3, shall we?
And that actually leads to a good and a bad version of this. There's actually 2 of them. And these things are called the Cadejo.
As told in folklore legends, the white Cadejo is friendly, but the black Cadejo is evil. They are known as legends that roam the night, with the white protecting the innocent from any harm, and the black going out on a killing spree. But the black can even become the incarnation of the devil.
Apparently that is true. And in Los Cadejos, aka the Vic and Val tale, we get to explore these 2 characters in action. And in this spin of the folklore, unfortunately, Victor ends up falling victim to the black one. I'm not going to say what Victor named it. But Victor did discover one thing. The black Cadejo has a very ominous power to turn its victim's eyes red. And by doing so, Victor ended up falling victim to this and was soon in the hands of the black Cadejo.
Oh boy. Well, until the white Cadejo named Mr. Cuddles by Valentino managed to restore Victor and to defeat the ominous Cadejo. What was that black one's name, though?
I'm not going to talk about that. I just said I'm not going to, alright? It's not something that suits the mood of the video. It's spooky purposes only around here.
Let me guess, Victor named it after some toilet joke or something?
To put it lightly, yeah. And apparently we need to go to number 2, being Juan from Dead Ringer.
This is very unusual because the main culprit is actually Valentino.
I must admit that it wasn't pretty for both of them, because when Victor didn't choose Valentino to be part of his soccer team, he ended up going to, out of all the residents, Charlene. And yes, there were very horrific consequences, because Valentino ended up becoming a powerful entity, with the real Valentino being stuck inside Juan's body for good. Only described as a spirit, because actually not too much is known about this, when it is shown that someone else claims to be a better soccer player than him, Juan ends up turning aggressive to the point of killing the person that challenges him.
Yeesh, talk about being a bad sport.
Fortunately, Vic and Val managed to stop him before any harm or certain death could happen.
I mean, they can't actually show children being killed off in the series, because it's a kid's show, for crying out loud.
Number 1 is something that we can agree on. One of the most terrifying enemies in all of Monte Macabre. And with this, no one around the place was safe. They have a very unusual name, and I like to call these the Mimes.
Yeah, the Tzitzimimes. Basically, these very freaky monsters had a very scary occurrence throughout the show's course, but in their debut episode, A New Dawn, these creatures had a very significant role as the series progressed, especially in season 3.
But the thing is, we can't really go into major plot points, because of, spoilers and all that stuff, especially for the newcomers that are trying to get into this. Oh, wait, you can't, because Cartoon Network screwed it over. But that's beside the point. In A New Dawn, aka the debut, Don Jalapeno ended up doing some pretty darn hysterical things that even we couldn't believe he did. But not all of it is fun and games around here, because as the series progresses on, these monsters come with a very deadly cost.
When these mimes find their victims, their eyes are filled with stars, and they can change how they look and act. Tragically, many of Monte Macabre's residents were victims of this horrible power by an enemy we do not say the name of.
But there is a silver lining, though. Sunlight. That's actually their weakness, apparently. And when they're affected too much by it for so long, they're released, and they turn back into a star forevermore.
So it's basically like how the Gremlins' weakness is sunlight, right?
Or in a way, sort of like vampires. But that cannot be said about the real story of them. Because this is why we save this for number 1. They were a group of stars depicted as monstrous skeletal women with a dual role. Guardians of the feminine and midwives but also feared demons that threatened to devour all of humanity.
Holy maracas!
I'm afraid it gets even scarier. They were believed to descend into our planet during solar eclipses, and if proper sacrifices were not made, these abominations would consume all people at the end of a 52-year cycle.
Oh, jeez. Well, it's a good thing these things don't actually exist in real life. Otherwise, our butts would be put on the menu.
These things are easily the scariest things in all of the town, and we especially hope that they don't come after you.
I think before we give our viewers nightmares and make them end up wetting themselves from all the scary stuff we just talked about, we better bring this episode of our show to a close.
But long story short, just remember, in Monte Macabre, be careful with who or what you trust, because as Vic and Val found out, it became the most important rule of the book.
Well, anyway, we hope you guys have a happy and, most importantly, a very safe Halloween tonight. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and hit the subscribe button so you can see more videos from us.
And since it is Halloween, sweet dreams.
And make sure if you get candied apples, make sure there's no razor blades in them.